Hi, it's Alison Dewhurst here. I'm in PIDP 3220, Delivery of Instruction, and this short video is to help you with your lesson plan development. In 3220, the students are required to deliver 3 mini lessons, 10 minutes long. And for some of the learners in this course, lesson planning is a natural because they've been teaching already. For some, it's a brand new process. So for the sake of this course, we are going to present you with a abridged version of how to go about developing a mini lesson, and then the 7-step process for delivering called BOPS. And we use BOPS because it's easy to remember. So that's the delivery framework. Obviously, when you're developing your lesson plan, you're going to be using a lesson plan template that will include the 7 steps of BOPS. But for the sake of this video, let's keep those two separate for time being. So let's start by talking about this mini lesson process for development. And some of this is pretty straightforward, but just to help you through the process if you haven't developed a mini lesson. So a lot of times it's your context is going to drive number one, which is select the topic. If you're delivering in a program that's already got predefined curriculum, you may be given the lesson plan, you may be given a daybook, or you might be given just a little bit of information that said, go teach this. But no matter what, you need to start by selecting what the topic of that lesson is. For the sake of this course, make sure that it's something really, really simple, because you only have a very short period of time, and time is a resource, and sometimes it will drive how much of a topic you're going to actually be teaching. So number one is to choose your topic. The second step in lesson plan development, or lesson plan process of development, is to create a learning outcome or objective. Now, a lot of times when we're doing curriculum development, we've already created a goal. We may be working outcomes-based where you have learning outcomes themselves. Generally speaking, for a lesson plan's learning objective or learning outcome is a bit smaller because lesson plans are usually a smaller unit of time. But you want to create what we call usually a performance objective or a simple learning outcome. And it is basically the same as any learning outcome where the student will be able to do something at the end of this lesson. So always keep that in mind. And this is extremely important because whatever domain you're working in, you're going to make sure that that learning outcome is written with a verb from that domain, because that selection of that domain of learning will drive also how you do your post-assessment, and the domain really drives how we make sure that it lines up with the curriculum and the assessments at the end. Then you start developing the lesson content and activities based on that learning outcome. This is when you choose, I'm going to be doing a lecture in the classroom, and what are the activities the learners have to do. This is like a accounting process. It's like a T account, because when you're thinking about lesson content, you're thinking about the materials you're going to be delivering, the resources that you need, and also the learning activities and the instructional strategies that you're going to be using with the learners. So it's not just what you're doing, it's what the learners will be doing too. The fourth step is to look at, do I need resources for the lesson? And do I need media? Do I need PowerPoint? Am I going to use some videos? What kind of materials do I need to have for this lesson? Because you've got to make sure that you've listed all that out, because when you put it into the lesson plan, you need to be accounted for all of those resources. Then the process is to instruct the lesson. And again, this is the mini lesson process, but if you were doing this on just a general teaching concept, you would do the same thing. You would instruct the lesson and then hopefully get some feedback on the lesson from the learners, or feedback and reflecting on the lesson. But we always want to be instructing the lesson and then reflecting so we can see what went well, what didn't go well, and making a note of the activities that went well. Now then again, this is just a 6-step process. This is for the mini lessons, but you can also use this for any kind of lesson plan that you're developing in your course. So let's move on to BOPS, the 7-step approach for delivering a lesson. We call it BOPS because it's simple to remember. So any lesson is going to start with what we call a bridge in, an opening. What an opening does, it's a segue for the learners to know, oh, I'm shifting into a new lesson. So a lot of times when we're delivering, our lesson plans might be running all day, so you may only do one bridge in. But if you're shifting gears and shifting content and topics, you want to do a bridge in. You then want to state the objective so the learners know what the objective of that lesson is. What should they be paying attention to? And I would take the time to state this objective a couple times, maybe point it out to learners, make sure they know. The first P in BOPS stands for pre-assessed learners. A lot of times with learners, they may come in with prerequisite knowledge or they might not have. This is your opportunity to find out where the learners are in their understanding of this content. Because if they know the content already, well, boom, that lesson makes a lot shorter. If they don't know the content and they don't have the prerequisites, then you may have to do some other things. But it gives you a chance to get a lay of the land. Then we go into the other two P's, present and practice. This is where you may be presenting new materials, maybe a lecture, you may be doing a demonstration on some type of machinery or something in the classroom. You're presenting, but you're also giving the learners an opportunity to practice. And generally in a lesson plan, it's going to be you're doing something, then the learner does something. You do something, then the learner does something. And once we get through all the learning activities, and you're going to be in the process with them and gauging where the learners are in that learning process, then the last P is post-assessment. And post-assessment is probably one of the most important pieces of this lesson plan, because a post-assessment is actually looking for evidence of learning and acquisition of skills. And this is the piece that when we talk about alignment, it's really important that we're assessing in accordance with that learning domain that we're in. Again, making sure that this post-assessment matches the learning domain, and it actually can say that if these students are successful with this post-assessment, that they've actually learned that material and acquired the skills. Then of course you're going to provide a summary of everything that's taught, and that gives you a chance to move on. You also might want to consider using motivational strategy throughout this lesson plan. And for those that haven't taken 3250 Instructional Strategies, wait till you take that course, because it'll provide you with a lot of information around motivational strategy theory, and there's quite a few that you may be applying in your lesson plan. But that is 3250 and not 3220. Anyways, that is lesson plan development in a nutshell, with using the mini lesson development process and the 7-step BOPSA process for delivery.